Okay, so I want to change this up a little bit because I don't want to talk about this fucking shit anymore. I'm fucking done with it now. I've had my fucking say, and hopefully I don't feel the need to have to bring this all up again. I want to change gears a little bit, and I want to talk about the recording I did 2 days ago, I think, called Virtual Reality. Because there's some shit that's just come out recently. Again, so I don't know if you guys all had a chance to watch the video. It's just a 30-minute long, it was 28-minute long video. And I'll give just a very brief rundown. And I'll throw, with this recording of Transpicuous Views, I will actually put the link in so people can go back. If they didn't see it, they can go back and watch the video. What we discussed was various topics. And since I recorded that video, there's more pieces come forward that have made me look at things and go, there's got to be something to this. I talked about basically the world is a simulation. That whole conversation. And there was an article that had come out in Zero Hedge, Zero Hedge being one of the biggest ones, alternative media outlets that put it out. And it was talking about basically some really, really rich people are paying scientists to get us out of this simulation. And as I said in the video, this is old news. We know this. We've read all this information. But we talked about it back when it originally came out, which was in October 2016. And the article runs through a bunch of basic stuff. And there was absolutely nothing new in the article. And funnily enough, from the headline of, rich guys are paying billions of dollars to break us out of this matrix, one sentence about it at the very bottom of the article. One fucking sentence, that's it. And I discussed the fact of when we see repeats, you know me, I always look at the timing. Why is this article coming out now? If it's the same information, where's the change in the information? Where's the new piece? Which is why they've re-released this. And the interesting piece was just a couple of words that were added in that had to do with another study, completely different, that had discovered computer code within the string theory models, et cetera, et cetera. And what was expanded on in this study, or in the comment about the study, was that the code that they found was linear, the word's just gone right out of my mouth. When it fixes itself, self-editing, self-correcting blocks of code. And when I saw that, I was like, that's the only thing that stood out was anything new in the entire article. It's like, interesting. Linear, self-correcting blocks of code. And I really looked at that and was, this is really interesting. And Nick and I had a huge conversation a few weeks ago, and I was going to bring it up and do a whole recording on it, and I just never got around to it. I didn't quite have all the pieces pulled together. About a piece of technology, which is a virtual reality, or what they are calling now more like a mixed reality or augmented reality technology by a company called Magic Leap. And you guys have probably all seen the video. It went viral about 1.5 years ago. It's like a public school gymnasium, and there's the hologram of the whale the massive whale coming out of the water and then diving back into the water in the gym floor, and it splashes up and all the students are like, oh. So that video was done by this company. And there's a very, very long article about this company by Wired, and I will make sure the link is in there. And I'm saying it's really long. The pieces in this. Very interesting shit. Talk about virtual reality, augmented reality, and how it could be played out. So I put together my video, and I'm not going to rehash all the different stuff that I got into. I will rehash some of it, but not going to get into all of it. And I started, rendering down the video, and I started uploading. And I had said to Igor, and I had a conversation a few weeks ago, and I think he actually brought it up on the show. I'm talking about the piece of a recording that he had found by some Russian scientists who'd been working within the KGB, and I believe it was back in the 80s, that when they had analyzed reality, so to speak, and they had realized, and they started to go back to look to try and, I guess you could say, almost say like track back their timeline. They figured out that their timeline began on March 1st, 1953. And we talked about it on the show, and I can't even remember what show it is now. Maybe one of you guys can remind me with the name of the show. I think it was about 3 weeks ago. And we pulled up the information, and we were looking at it going, holy crap. In 1953, March 1st, 1953 is when Stalin had his stroke, and he died 4 days later. 1953 was also the year that Queen Elizabeth II was coronated. It was also the year that Eisenhower became president of the United States. It's also the year that the CIA was formed and went in and took down the Iranian government. There were multiple major fucking events that happened in 1953. A total reset. And we discussed it at the moment and said, okay, the interesting part was, are they saying that that's when time began? As in our time began in 1953, what we would call in a linear time fashion? Or was it just that the timeline they were on at that moment only tracked back down to 1953, i.e. that there was a breach in the timeline and something happened foundational within the original timeline that caused a split in the timeline, and the timeline they were on neatly packs right back down to 1953. There's a lot of shit in this that when you start looking at it. Now, as I was uploading the video, the virtual reality video, I'd said to Igor, have you found anything else? And he said, no, but I'm listening to this, fucking mosquitoes are going nuts tonight. I just listened to this really, really interesting recording by Og Tellis. And I was like, okay, well, while I'm rendering video, there's not much jack shit I can do on the computer at that moment. I'll listen to this. And the video that Og put out is about an hour long, give or take. Maybe it's 58 minutes or something. Now, I'm not going to say, I don't want to say it though. I was going to say I'm not a fan of Og's work, and that's not true. I don't really know it that well. A lot of the stuff that he discusses, it's not that it doesn't resonate with me. It's not the information that doesn't resonate. It's the conclusions that do not resonate with me. Information is presented, which I find very, very interesting many, many times. It's the twist at the end. It's the conclusion at the end that always to me goes, no. But when I heard this video, the first 15 minutes of it, I was like, holy shit. Because he had basically, in his video, outlined everything that I was talking about in my video, and I hadn't seen his video yet. So I found it very, very interesting. And one of the things he talked about was the fact that the entire reason for World War II was because the Nazis had discovered basically that this was all a construct. a simulation, a matrix, however you want to call it. And that they funneled every bit of energy they had into figuring it the fuck out. Now, we know from all the stuff that we've talked about the Nazis for fucking a couple of years now. They were into everything. They collected every bit of esoteric, every bit of religious lore, esoteric lore, anything that would be defined in magic, black magic, fringe sciences. I mean, they really did everything they could possibly do. And if you sit there and go, okay, well, you're saying if they were trying to crack the code, so to speak, literally of reality, because they'd figured out that reality was not what we thought it was, you kind of go, oh, that gives a whole new spin to everything. Basically, August saying that World War II was all about controlling who had control of the fucking matrix. And the battle was who is going to have basically the ability to fucking play with the dials. And he goes into lots and lots of details. Like I said, the recording is very, very interesting. And I say it's at least the first half hour of it anyways, well worth listening to. Just because a lot of the information he presents fits in with a lot of shit that we're actually seeing happen. Basically what he says is that since then, since 1947 is when he says they took control of the timeline. And if I've got this correct me if I'm wrong, that in 1947, they, whoever won the war, because that's open to debate, basically took control of the construct and created an exact replica copy. And when they created this exact replica copy of our construct, they don't, and this is very, very interesting. This was one of the pieces that was very interesting. It's not about making a replica copy of Earth. When they make a replica, a copy of this reality, it's the entire universe. It's not just the planet. It's the entire universe, basically creating another entire universe, which everything is copied. And that basically he's saying that we were all copied. Not we, because obviously I wasn't alive in 1947, but that basically everyone was copied and put into this construct. And that was the beginning of all the fucking timeline shit and the loops and the fact that everything was a loop, and they looped it and they looped it and they went back and they created loops and it went back and forth. And he said there were major nexus nodes where things happened. And I think he said one of them he mentioned was in the 80s. Now it's really interesting because that really jarred me, because I had an experience when I was about 15 years old, which I guess would be about 83, 84. That to this day I've never ever been able to explain. Never been able to explain a physical sensation that I went through. That now I've been through it lots in the last couple of years. It's one of those things that it's kind of becoming old hat for the rest of us now nowadays. But I went through something like that I was either the summer of 83 or 84, and I'm not sure which one, to be quite honest. And I was never able to explain what happened that day to me. And the fact that no one else seemed to really see it, feel it. And he says that there was another one that was created in 1988, 89, right around there. Well, the one thing that I've talked about a lot is the last time the financial system was remirrored was in 1988, 89. And this is 2001. The 9/11 was another nexus point where another loop was inserted. And there have been many people who've talked about the fact that they believe that 9/11 was an inserted event, where they went back and inserted that event to get to where they wanted the politics, etc., to go. So anyways, a lot of the stuff he talks about is really, really interesting in this. I do not agree with his conclusion. Just my own opinion. I don't agree with the conclusion he came to about how it has to play out. I found that to be very disempowering. Disempowering. That's all I'm going to say on that. But this goes into all these conversations that we've been having about the simulated matrix. It goes into this conversation that we've been having about fucking time loops that just seem to want to keep coming back and coming back and coming back. And we keep having these deja vus. And he actually talks about the deja vus and what that deja vu is, literally a loop that's been inserted. And it's like in the Matrix, the black cat, right? Someone's gone in and changed the code. And that's why the black cat walks about again. When we talk about the simulation theory, the simulated universe theory, we talk about Elon Musk, and we talk about all these kind of, they're all like, oh, there's, you know, we live in a simulation, it's almost guaranteed. There's two things, there's two reactions to kind of come up. Number one is that if Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking and all these talking heads are saying this is what it is, then I want to immediately say that, well, that's obviously not what it is, right? Like if that's what they're calling it, then it must be the opposite. But the other piece to that is that you can state what it is. You know what we say about 90% truth, 10% bullshit? And then twist it. They twist it to disempower people, to change how people think of it, their perception of what's going on. So I've been really, really going into this. Now, a couple of shows ago, I talked about I was going to get into the physics. Someone unmuted. Joyce is unmuted. I was going to get into the physics of this, and I'm going to kind of break into this a little bit now. And I kind of ran this through. I did a dry run on this one. With Anne and Brianna, I was like, okay, if you guys can understand me, if I can run through this and then you guys can follow it, then hopefully I can present this in a somewhat linear, understandable fashion for the show. When we talk about physics, the fathers of physics, quantum physics, we're going to talk about now. Two of the leading people in this area are Maxwell Planck and Niels Bohr. And when they put out shit, and they've put out some foundation, so one of them is the Planck constant, which is kind of like a law of quantum physics. A law, right? These are foundational in quantum physics, the way that gravity is to regular physics. Right? That's the kind of thing we're talking about. And there was an article that came out just recently about Planck's time. And Planck had worked out the equation to give us the exact time that a second is. If that makes sense. I.e., exactly how long is a second? Not to 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, but literally the exact amount of time. And it was all done with physics, etc. And the article that came out in the news was a science article, was saying that they have just redefined time for us. And using Planck's constant and Planck's rule of time, they have come up with some new equipment to be able to break it down even farther, down to 35/100ths of a nanosecond, that what a second is. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, when they start doing things like redefining time, you go, oh, wait a second. What are we talking about? Time speeding up, time slowing. Your time is fucked at the moment. We've talked about this. So I went and I started researching it. So Planck and Niels Bohr, all their experiments that set up some of the most basic foundational pieces of quantum physics were all done with the hydrogen atom. All of them use the hydrogen atom as the basis point of their experiment. Now, we've talked about this. And I wish I fucking had the ability to go into this and prove that this is a Mandela effect, because I'm going, well, how do you prove a Mandela effect anyway, really? But, I mean, I've had now contact with two different scientists, a chemist and a physicist, who've said yes, that I'm, the Nick, I should say Nick, because I'm not a chemist, Nick is correct, that the original, that how they remembered being taught in school, and these are scientists, is that hydrogen with an atomic weight of 2, with a proton, an electron, and a neutron, is the most common element in the universe. Now, when you read all the information, hydrogen with an atomic weight of 1, with only a proton and an electron, is the most common element in the universe. Now, people might, again, a lot of people glaze over when I start talking about the physics stuff and all the rest of it, okay? Let's pretend that we're writing an equation. No, we're going to back up a little farther. We're going to say, let's pretend that we're making a virtual reality world. When you are programming a virtual reality world, every single aspect of that has to be programmed into. It has to be coded into it. So you have to do the coding that would represent gravity, heat, sunlight, anything that is a physical, that could be a physical impact on the physical activity of the avatar in the game, has to be coded into it. Time, the passage of time, has to be coded into the programming. So let's hypothesize. And we hypothesize that we are living in a computer simulation. When that computer simulation was written, the original one was written, there would have been coding plunked into there. And if you look at Planck's law on time, and I'm not even going to try and go into the definitions of it, because dudes, but let's pretend that you're going to code that into a computer code. And let's say that we come up with an equation, and it's basically A plus B equals C. Now, the value for A, now let's say that value for A is the representation of the atomic weight of hydrogen, is 2. Plus B, we'll give that an amount of 3. Say 3, A equals 2, and we'll use that as the representation of hydrogen. And B equals 3, therefore A plus B, 2 plus 3 equals 5. 5 is the outcome. But what happens if all of a sudden the atomic weight of hydrogen is changed? And now A doesn't equal 2, A equals 1. But the code is still written in. It's still A plus B equals C. That has been put into the computer code. So now you go, wait a second. What happens if the atomic weight of hydrogen is cut in half? And that is the absolute baseline that all the experiments that defined time in a second. Would we all of a sudden see time as being half of what it once was? Would we? This is the questions I'm starting to ask, because we're seeing wild shit happen around us. And I'm extreme left field with this. I'm throwing out a hypothesis that is extremely way out there. But if hydrogen has in fact changed, hydrogen is the building block of everything, from water to our bodies to fucking everything around us, to everything that we know in the universe, or we think we know in the universe. And if it's changed, how has it changed? Why has it changed? This is the thing. Is that one change enough to cause every other change that's happened? Yeah, if so, could time also go twice as fast? And that's my point. This is a little question. But here's the thing. When we look at this, and we're looking at time, right now, time is such a big one for us, as we see it linearly. And now we're becoming aware of these loops. Now we're becoming aware of repeats. And we're seeing, for example, the Mandela effect. Now, the big thing we've talked about is this 2013 time loop, which, of course, we can't prove in any way, shape, or form. We can only go with what we're seeing in front of us. But a good portion of these really, really bizarre shit that we have seen play out has happened post 2013, in that time period from 2013 to 2017, was when the Mandela effect started going insane. All this stuff happening. And we're seeing it going faster and faster and faster, bigger and bigger and bigger, continuously. I have to ask the question, if we are in this construct, if we are actually within a construct that is a copy, and that was the interesting thing that Og said, is that the fact that when this happened in 1947, they made a complete copy and dropped us all into it. Are we falling through? Again, comes back up to this whole thing. Are these timelines collapsing? Are these time loops collapsing back down now? And Patrick, yes, CERN. What is CERN doing? What did CERN do? And I go back to the question again of, do we know for a fact that what CERN did was bad? And I know, like I say, a lynch mob's coming for me for even contemplating the fact that CERN may have not been the bad guy, or the bad guys, I guess. What if what CERN did was something to blow up and start collapsing down these timeline structures? I'm just tossing it out there as a hypothesis, because we take on assumptions, and yeah, Philip, you could be right, because maybe CERN was firing up to try and stop the breakdown. You're absolutely right, because hell, some of the biggest Mandela effects that we know of have to do with CERN. Like some of the biggest Mandela effects I've run into all have to do with CERN. So there's a lot of questions here. Okay, so Maura, you just said this. Okay, time is experienced with our consciousness. While residing within that consciousness, we are subject to it. And you will notice the subject of timelessness of awareness is different. Okay, and that's really interesting. But here's my question. Time is experienced with our consciousness, but we experience it linearly. And yet, is it linear? We've always questioned that. We always keep saying time is not a linear. Time is part of the construct. Part of the construct, the reason the construct was made, a lot of the hypothesis is that was to give us the ability to experience time in a linear fashion. We don't know. We don't know. But I do find it interesting that especially since about December of 2016, there's been a lot of different things that have come up or come back into my own personal attention, back into my own personal view, where things become relevant again and you start asking questions. And a lot of the energetic, if you will, astral energetic work that a lot of people have done since 2013 especially stuff that was done in 2013, seems to be all I don't want to say replaying out, but becoming relevant again, or at least relevant to the point that you start re-looking at some of the things that you saw back then. And when certain people are seeing seeing the same thing, I should say, when people are seeing the exact same thing, it always makes me go, there's got to be something to this. I don't believe in, mass hypnosis or mass hysteria that all of a sudden, everyone is all under the influence, so to speak. Sorry, I'm getting eaten alive here. I'm going to have to go get my spray. When people are seeing, and a lot of this idea of the construct and the cycles or loops is something that people seem to be becoming aware of. Now, one of the hypotheses is that I threw out in the video, or was discussing on the video that I did earlier a couple of days ago, was that we think of time as linear. And so people, for example, when you think of reincarnation as in, first I was a slave in Egypt, and then, I was in ancient Rome, and I was a merchant in Rome, and then I was in here. And you think of it as in, you did this life, and then you reincarnated, and then you did this one, and then you did this one, and then we did this one. And I put out the question and said, what if all these perceived epochs, perceived eras, perceived adventures are nothing more than that, and are nothing more than the construct that we chose to experience, i.e., like you came in, I'm sorry to say, like a virtual reality video game, that we came into the video game and said, I want to experience the Mayan culture, that whole Mayan storyline. And maybe it's kind of like Total Recall, where you here have your adventure, right? You can go to Mars for the afternoon, or you can go visit the Mayans, you can go to Atlantis, you can go to, and that is the memories that people are having now of past lives. Are they past lives, or are they merely other adventures that they've gone on in different areas of the amusement park, so to speak? Now, the one thing that came up in the Wired article about talking about virtual reality, I'm going to see if I can pull it up. I've got the article here. Just give me a quick second here. They talked about the physical and the mental. And the guy who's writing the article who's gone through and actually done all these different types of virtual reality and mixed reality type games, says something. I nearly fell in a recent VR journey because I tried to jump into a pit that wasn't really there. Oculus is like a game type thing, weirdly warns its users to remain seated at all times. The problem is, if you're present, really present, in an alternative place, you are absent from the place your body is, which is a really profound thought when we're talking about basically even the hypothesis of that we could be in a simulation right now. It goes on to say, then there is our ignorance of the long-term effects of fooling your mind and body. This is so new, we don't even know yet what questions to ask. We do know that motion sickness is real, and that they discovered that 1 out of 30 people are susceptible to motion sickness while doing this. But what other problems will arise after tens of thousands of hours of use? And I sat there and was like, oh, this is really, really interesting, because so many times we've talked about, and people have seen it. How many conversations we've had where people have seen the pods. They've seen themselves in a pod, or they've seen other people in a pod on a bed doing something, and they're out. And I want to throw another hypothesis in the whole fact of what if we are literally plugged into a virtual reality game? And like the movie Inception, you get to a point where if you're in there for too long, you don't want to leave. And then if you're in there for too long, you no longer remember that you're in a dream state, that you're in this game, and it becomes real. And what if you can't remember to break out? What if you can't remember that you actually exist elsewhere and that what you're doing is part of a game? And one of the big things that really hit me when I was thinking about this was the movie Westworld. And we discussed this last year. And in the final 2 episodes of Westworld, if you haven't watched it, I'm about to give like the big hoo-hurrah ending. So, want to stick your fingers in your ear if you actually plan on watching it. These bots, these avatars, the guy who originally created them, it becomes apparent as you get to the end of the first episode, the end of the first season, he was trying to get them to become conscious, fully conscious, to become aware. And in the end, he says to the one young girl that the only way he could get her to get to that place where she would finally wake up was through violence and fear and anger, to literally trauma, to literally shock her into the point of going, and when I watched that episode, it was the final episode of Westworld was seriously fucking powerful. When I watched it back to back. As soon as I finished watching it, I went back and rewound and watched the whole thing all over again. What are we living in right now? I don't know, but for most people, fear and trauma are pretty high up there in their experiences. Like I said, even if you're financially stable and you've got a good family life and things are not so bad, it is still trauma. The politics, the wars, the famine, the disease, the bullshit, the police state, the militarized zones. I mean, everything. It has become a world that we do not know. And we say it all the time. We say, oh my God, this is not my fucking reality. This is not my fucking reality. And I have to wonder if that's maybe the programmers. There's some programmer out there right now trying to get us all to wake up, trying to snap us out of this state, snap us out. If they make it that bad as they could possibly make it, that's what it takes to finally kick over, and get to whatever's beyond. I don't know, guys. It's a lot of questions. My brain has really been going off for the last few weeks, especially the last few weeks. There's so many pieces of this that feel really, really tangible to me, that we are on the cusp of really figuring shit out, that we are on the very cusp of something huge. And by huge, I don't mean financial. I don't mean Nasara, RVs, or accessing our value. I mean, and I kind of tried to get to this on Wednesday, tried to get this point across. All that stuff is just a fucking representation. And like I said, we all need to eat. We all have to pay for a roof over our heads. We all have to do this shit. Yeah. But the financial shit is just a representation of so much more. And it just seems to me that we are so close to figuring this shit out. We really need to be kind of diligent in not getting distracted, in not losing focus. We don't want to lose focus. And that's why I asked the question. What was everyone really, really focused on 2 weeks ago before all this shit fucking blew up? Because it feels like we're real fucking close. Teresa?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold
No,
on.
I didn't know if you wanted to actually add something.
You're blowing my mind, girlfriend. I'm running all over the place trying to do something, and I'm trying so hard to listen to you. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. Thank you. I just want to say thank you.
You're always welcome up. If you're driving, 2 hands on the wheel. Try and focus.
Getting ready to.
Okay. David, I know you've had your hand up for a while. Can you do me a favor? I'm sorry, I've been kind of, because I needed to get through my whole spiel. I had to actually speak it out or I was going to miss a piece, and I actually know I've missed pieces, so maybe Anne or Brianna can tell me if I've missed a point. But did you want to add something to this, hon? I know you did.
Yeah, I did. That's why I didn't say anything, because it's like you were on a really, really beautiful roll here. Okay, I wanted to go back to the og piece, and this will tie into your string of thought.
Okay.
And I do take the posture that we are in a construct because it's an easy narrative to talk about and to convey and for people to get it. No one really knows what's going on.
No, okay, exactly, David. We don't know. We hypothesize, we conjecture, but we don't really know.
Right. Okay, so what if the proverbial they made a copy of the construct, an exact snapshot? The problem that the proverbial they are going to have is that that snapshot does not allow for an evolution to occur.
Yes.
Yes, and so they have to keep the inhabitants at a very, very, very narrow range of evolution. Basically, they can't move on from where they are. And so all of those experiences, even though the interface may change a little bit, like from the 1800s to the 1900s to where we are now, or Roman times or whatever, that may change. However, the clothing may change, but the girl is still the same.
Yeah.
Basically. So.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So that's basically the idea I've been running with. And I did that posting about primary symbols and secondary symbols. Mm. Yeah. I'm going to be doing another posting today. When Heather came out with her filings, I did kind of a breakdown on what I saw with the factualized trusts that she had put out. I'm going to be doing another one because this brings up a very, very interesting question. It's like, was the original intent of the filings as a reloop for everyone? That means that everyone's focusing on the external secondary symbol. They've lost track of who they are. However, if the intent is to just close that loop, that's actually a good thing, because that opens up the space for people to start moving forward, for evolution to kick in. And if evolution kicks in, that snapshot construct, it just starts falling away, and we actually connect with the organic construct. We don't have to do anything other than just participate in our daily lives, just waking up. It just happens naturally. It's kind of like you need to evolve in a particular way, and that has like 10 components. All you have to do is focus on the one component, and all the other components just start falling in place of their own accord.
And well, we've even talked about that in the fact of when we say, like, you can't force someone to wake up if it's not their moment to wake up.
Right. Well,
like people have their trigger, and that is that. I see what you're saying. That is that kind of organic growth, that organic moving forward through all of this.
Mm-hmm. Well, in this case, that's not necessarily true in my experience.
Okay, so what do you see?
What this moving us out of this co-opted construct is being imposed because no one has the capacity to have free will or free choice at all. It's been that co-opted. And I remember having these conversations, and that's about all the farther that I can go. And that was, back in like 2010, 2011. And I got asked some questions from the bigger kids or whoever that is. It's like, well, this is what it's like down here, and this is my opinion and how we can move forward. And so because no one has that choice, no one has that capacity to move forward, that choice, it's being imposed, and we're all going to just simply move forward. And whoever wants to create, a version of this, that'll be in relevance to that person. It's not imposed on anyone else. And we have to get moved out of this co-opted construct in order for that to happen.
But how does that look? Therein is the question, right? And this is, so I've just been eating alive sitting here for the last 10 minutes. Apparently my spray is worn off. Because we talk about this, and we talk about things like, waking up. Some people talk about, going home. Some people talk about getting back to the organic earth. Some people, whatever analogy you want to use, we come back to the same question. And that same question is how?
Well, the best answer I've been able to come up with for myself is that we're simply moved into a construct, and this will be initial steps, that we're simply moved into a construct where the experience works the way it's supposed to in the first place.
Okay, and I get that. See, and I actually do get that. And there's been many people who hypothesize that is kind of like the place that we're in now. In which case, and to use, going back to our initial conversation of the financial stuff, and what Ben was saying about how it's supposed to work, how it was initially set up to work, then it should seem to me that if that is the case, then it should work. That we should all be able to basically just punch in these numbers into our bank account and access those funds, and because that's the way it's supposed to work, blah, 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 blah. The problem is that's not the way it's working. And there is, to me, that means that when we're looking at this construct that we're in, that either A, we're not yet in that construct where everything should play out, or if you don't want to use the word construct, we are not in that timeline, we are not in that space or place yet.
Right. Yeah, and I think we have to get to that place where whatever construct we're moving into, we have to get to like a place of balanced acclimation so that we can transfer over from where we are to where we're going to be. That's and I think there's a huge
define it better, because David, like, even though I'm not quite I can feel that there's what you're trying to mean with this, but the words aren't coming across. I want you, can you define that better?
Yeah, it would be like, let's see here. Recently, I started connecting with the Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
There are some beings, people, whoever, that are on the other side of this bridge, building this bridge. we're on this side building this bridge, and you know all those pink lights and all the other colors that have been coming in? Those are colors that are coming in a raw form, and we're the ones that have to transmute it because those colors have to be relevant for where we are at this moment, because no one can ever separate themselves out from the experience that they're having at that moment. So we're building this bridge from our side, and as this bridge comes together, it starts merging. Like, you ever see like two pieces of wood that are like jointed together? It's not two flat pieces that are coming together. It's like dovetailing and very, very intricate patterns, and they merge together. And there's like this, and that's that transition place from going from where we are to where we're going. And I think the bottom line is that no one knows. It's a huge surprise. And part of it is we can only know only so much, because why would you know, we're here for experience. Why would you want to take the surprise of this? This is like the biggest front row seat ever.
Yeah, I don't like surprises. Sorry, I'm quite frank. I don't like surprise parties. I don't like surprises. I'm not that type of person. And that's my whole joke, is like, you can't tell me that I agreed to do this and surprised at the end, because I would never have fucking agreed to that.
Right. I'm with you.
I'm the control. Yes, I am a control freak. Thank you very much, Carl. We all know that I'm a control freak. I want to know.
Yeah, and I did not sign up for this either.
Exactly. So that is and this goes back to, again, that whole, again, are we looking at basically the other piece of that, of the takeover scenario? The fact that we should have come out and it should have been like a very, and we should have, the time is over and now we're moving to here. But the fact that there was a copy made. A slave system. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Taking us out of our free will. Because we don't have free will right now. Absolutely.
I have a very good friend who I recently had a talk with her, and she's remembering that she's one of the originals, and I haven't told her any of this other narrative. And one of the really interesting pieces that she passed on was that, I figure I'm a volunteer. It's the only thing that makes sense in any of this. And I've got a pretty good narrative on how all of that looks and plays out, at least that I can wrap my head around. But she passed on this really interesting information that she, other than a couple like little tendrils, she remembers everything since the invasion. She doesn't really remember anything before that. And I think that's there for a couple reasons. One is, do you want to go and live in the past?
And I get that.
Yeah.
But there's multiple things that we can look at that too, and be like, like the invasion was a mind wipe. And if you were dropped, let's say the invasion was the dropping into this, a fake construct. A construct, right? Then if a copy of us is made and dropped into this construct, then that's maybe why there's no memories prior to it. Because those memories reside with our, much higher, greater, inner, whatever consciousness that we don't have clear access to at this point.
Right. And I don't think I don't think anyone's going to have access to that until we're on the other side of this proverbial whatever is on the other side.
Hey, wait, here we go. Let's all start taking bets. Should we all start taking bets? I don't know, like start like a little, I will bet for something ridiculous like chocolate bars or something. And be like, should we all start taking bets of like what this is and how it plays out? And it's kind of like, like when someone's having a baby and you got to guess, what the sex of the baby is, how much the baby's going to weigh, and what the name of the baby's going to be. And whoever gets closest on all three factors. So we'll set it all up and be like, okay, what was this that we were in? How did we fucking get here? and how the fuck we got out, and should we start taking bets? I don't know.
Oh, hell yes.
I think it's a great idea.
We could start an entire string or page on that one alone.
Oh, and what would be really, really good is you don't actually tell anyone, like you don't put anywhere on the website what the bet is on. You just have everyone put their bets in.
Uh-huh.
And
yeah.
People try and figure out what the hell are they talking about, because holy shit. That could be a lot of fun. I don't know. That could be a lot of fun. We get on the other side and we can all have our chocolate bars and sit back and laugh about it all and say, you said this. Hysterical. Yeah, I know. Too much fun.
All right, I'm muting. That's all I needed to share on that one. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Earl, we've only got a couple of minutes left. Did you want to say something, hon?
Okay, one of the thoughts, and this is the only thought I'm going to go with for now, because we only got so much time, is, okay, if they made a copy of the universe, okay, and they got running on an operating system, whatever they got running on, well, only depending on time and how long it's been up and running, you're going to have, like, things like called bit rot, that things been running for so long that there's files that are damaged and all that, and plus the hardware.
A copy of a copy of a copy, man.
Exactly. So yeah, plus you gotta make sure you keep everything up. You gotta make sure you make patches, and that's what could be causing the Mandela effect.
And that's exactly what I said. I've said the exact same thing, Errol. All the fixes and the patches that they have to keep making because number 2.5 they had a glitch over here, so we got to put a patch in to fix that. And yeah, that could very well be the Mandela effect.
Yeah. So yeah. We are in a simulation, and we just got to go along with the ride. I'm sorry you're control freak, but you know what? I bet you when you wake up from all this, you'll be like, "Did I really consent for this?" And they bring up the holographic video of you saying, "Yeah, I'll go."
Yeah, no, I'm taking a long vacation after this.
Anyway,
somewhere really quiet.
Anyway, yeah. So I'll talk next week or something.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Earl.
Bye.
And that's it for us, guys. Yeah, I don't know. That was like a really tizzy of a show. I know I'm just like seriously all over the place, scattered. I have a lot more I want to say on this subject because there's more stuff that I didn't talk about, and there's a lot of different ideas that come in with this idea of making a copy of a universe that gives you the whole concept of why we have so many different galactics and why we have so many different storylines coming at us from different points of reference, and the fact of they could all just be coming from a different copy. And that's why their storyline isn't necessarily our storyline. So yeah, that's it for me for tonight, guys. It is 12:02 in the morning, and I will be back on Wednesday for the unfucked discussion. God knows what we'll talk about then, because you just never know. Okay, that's it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.